opposition band. The tyrants made distractions and the people looked away. And by the time they realized they couldn't get away, the smiling face on my TV says we should all join hands and help create this vision of a new world order plan. We'll downsize our defenses, give our bases all away to a UN global peace force, and we'll do just what they say. Take your globalist agenda and your
New World Order
plans, and you can take my gun from my cold dead hands.
So, as we set out this year to defeat the divisive forces that would take freedom away, I want to say those fighting words for everyone within the sound of my voice to hear and to heed, and especially for you, Mr. Gore. From my cold, dead hands.
Good afternoon. Welcome to The Simple Truth. My name is Bob Dacy. I'll be hosting the show this evening, and this show is produced by John DeSimone, our illustrious producer. Tonight, this is, what is today, April the 17th, 2001. We're on live from 4 to 5:30 on Austin Cable Access Channel 16. Tonight, you're asking yourself, why is he dressed like this? What am I doing dressed like this? Where is my classic blue shirt that I always wear? Well, you'll find out in a minute why I'm dressed like this. But before I get into our main topic tonight, and the topic tonight is going to be the M word. The M word, that's militia. That's why I'm dressed like this, for effect. And also because people have told me not to wear that blue shirt anymore, and I'm going to give them their jollies for one episode. I like my blue shirt. By the way, it's not the same blue shirt every time. It's different ones. That's going to be our main topic tonight, militia. But before I get into the militia, first I need to thank our sponsor, which is the Army-Navy Department. How convenient. The Army-Navy Department at the Hardware Store Incorporated, Spotswood Springs Road at 183 here in Northwest Austin. Thank you, Hardware Store Incorporated, Army-Navy Department, for sponsoring The Simple Truth. Now, before I get into the main topic tonight, which is the militia, can I say that on TV? I have a couple of stories that I just wanted to comment on that were in the media here recently, and so here goes. The first one is from the American Statesman, and John, you want to go to the other camera? I'll see if I can show people what I'm looking at. Austin American Statesman, should violence strike, schools are ready. See that? Okay. Now, I got this out of the Statesman on Friday, April the 13th. And I would like to just read a little blurb about it. This is the schools now, because they're a bunch of mindless followers, are now have decided now that they're going to have crazy weirdo with a gun drills, you know, instead of the other kind of drills they used to have back when I was a kid. I'd like to read a little bit about this. Drills teach Central Texas students what to do if someone opens fire. This is by Jonathan Osborne of the American Statesman staff. The intruder alarm rings through the hallways, volleying off lockers. Every child and instructor at Hill Country Middle School near West Lake Hills knows what the bell means. In silence, they move to a predetermined hiding place, behind shelves in the library or under desks in the classroom, and wait. Decades ago, students dived under their desks during drills for nuclear attacks. Now they prepare for the student slayings that have become all too common in America. Now they go on and talk about their little emergency plans. And I read that, and it reminded me of two things I needed to comment on. Number one, I was a little munchkin back in the mid-'60s when they had those ridiculous nuclear attack drills in Austin. There I was at Wooldridge Elementary School over there in the university area in Austin, and you'd have those civil defense sirens go off. Yeah, you know, they do that stuff, and all of us cute little munchkins the teachers would get up and we would march out into the hall and we would duck and cover in the hall, protected from the big nuke by the school building. Now, it was stupid then. Can you picture being nuked and the school building is going to protect you from a nuclear blast if you just duck and cover? You know how stupid that was? I mean, it was totally ridiculous. I mean, actually, if a nuke did hit Austin back then, you'd be better off dead, you know. Anyway, I remember those drills because I participated in them as a munchkin. This thing here is just as stupid. If you take the scenario, if you forget the fact that school violence is way, way down, except for the ones that they advertise on the news media all the time to make you think that school violence is up, even though statistically it's way down. If you actually had a situation where some nut with a gun was running around the school shooting people like it happened at Columbine, let me give you some real good advice. If you are a potential victim of this person, the best defense, if you cannot defend yourself because you don't have any weapons, no guns or anything, the best defense is to not be there. This ridiculous little fire drill that they're teaching the kids is, that's right, get under your desk where it's safe from the big crazy person with the gun. Hide behind the shelves in the library. He'll never look there. No, the best defense is to get out, disperse, get away from the building, get away from the guy with the gun. Don't stand around like a fool waiting for him to come shoot you. Who thought of that? Obviously a moron thought of that. If you can't defend yourself from a nut with a gun, don't be there. Now, where am I wrong? Where am I wrong? You know, if I was a nut with a gun in my vicinity and I wasn't able to defend myself, which would be a rare case, I wouldn't be there. I'd be gone. So if you have a little nut with a gun running around your school shooting, don't hide under the table. You're just asking to be another victim. All right. A related news story. I got this on also on the 13th on page A4, Austin American-Statesman. John, you want to go to the other camera? I'll show this. There we go. Gun deaths fell 26% during mid-1990s, CDC says. That's Center for Disease Control, okay? Atlanta, gun deaths in the United States dropped more than 25% during the mid-1990s to the lowest level since 1966, the government said Thursday. But I thought we're all wasting each other in ever-increasing numbers with the epidemic of gun violence. I've been listening to Handgun Control Incorporated and Violence Policy Center and Nina Butts. I thought there was a shootout on every street now. Huh. Gun-related injuries fell by nearly half during the same 5-year period. Wait a minute, I thought we were having a bloodbath going on out there. Man, I must be getting my news from the wrong people. Gun control advocates call for tighter restrictions on firearm sales and more money for law enforcement. When we have 30,000 deaths a year, that's too many, said Soledad Roybal, a spokesman for the Center to Prevent Handgun Violence. There needs to be real comprehensive laws, not just laws that are there as a show. Huh? I'm sorry, I just don't understand these guys. That's right, pass more laws that you won't enforce. Don't enforce the ones you have right now. Just pass more laws. That'll keep people from shooting each other in the schools in record numbers. Yeah. Okay, had to comment on those two news stories. Now, before I get to the main topic of militia tonight, I want to make another announcement reminding you that this Sunday, April the 22nd, from 12 to 3 on the south lawn of the state capitol here in Austin, there will be a pro-freedom, pro-Second Amendment rally. And, you know, people are always asking, well, what can I do? What can I do? Well, get yourself out there. Get yourself, your wife, your kids, your family. Get out there so we can have a giant crowd and show the gun grabbers that our guns will not be grabbed. It's something that's very visually arresting. Do it. Just get out there. It's on Sunday afternoon, 12 to 3, State Capitol. You got no excuse not to be there. All right? So please, get on out there if you want to show your support for the good guys, our side. Okay. And by the way, it's sponsored by Alex Jones. And if you want to learn more about it, then I've just said go to his website, which is www.infowars.com. So please get out there and support the Second Amendment. It's a shame you should even have to support the Second Amendment, but you do. So please get out there and do so. Okay, tonight, why am I dressed like this? Okay, we're going to be talking about the militia. Now, you know that word, the militia, has been demonized constantly by the mainstream media. I mean, the word militia, that's a terrible thing. Now, what I'm going to do tonight is I'm going to say what the militia really is, what it's really supposed to be. I'm going to redefine it back to the way it is meant to be. I'm going to show an example, an egregious example, by the way, of how the entertainment industry in this country just tears that concept up to try to make you afraid of the word militia. I'm going to read some quotes from the Founding Fathers about what it means. I'm going to play a speech that a real, live, genuine militiaman made a year ago up in Waco. And I'm going to go through that particular militia's question and answer session about what the militia really is and what it's not. So this is kind of like equal time for the militia. So I'm dressed like this for that reason, and also because it makes good television. So who's that guy in the military uniform? No, I'm not in the military. You see, I am in the militia. So are you. So I want to read some quotes here first from some of the Founding Fathers as far as what the militia really is. This is the Second Amendment to the Constitution. A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. That's the Second Amendment to the United States Constitution. The militia, when properly formed, are in fact the people themselves. That was Richard Henry Lee. I ask, sir, what is the militia? It is the whole people, except for a few public officials. George Mason. If you don't know who these people are, shame on you. And shame on your teachers. And this next quote, I love this one. It's from a commentator at the time, a patriot, a newspaper man. Who are the militia? Are they not ourselves? Congress shall have no power to disarm the militia. Their swords and every other terrible implement of the soldier are the birthright of an American. The power of the sword is not in the hands of either the federal or state governments, but where I trust in God, it will ever remain in the hands of the people. That was Tench Cox, Philadelphia Gazette. Now let's get it straight. That word militia today means crazy, right-wing, extremist, inbred, wacko, whose knuckles drag on the ground as he runs through the woods with his fully automatic assault rifle, shooting everything that moves. That is the definition of militia that the mainstream media has tried to foist off on the American public in the interest of getting rid of the Second Amendment. That's the whole point. Demonize the word militia. Now they want you to believe that the militia is an arm of the federal government. you know, the National Guard, which didn't even exist anywhere near the time that the Constitution was written. I mean, come on. The right of the government to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Yeah, right. Right. That's their big argument. The militia is no longer the people. It's the National Guard, which is run by the feds. Oh, yeah, that makes a whole lot of sense to me. Uh-huh. So bottom line is what they're trying to do is disarm the militia, which is the people, which is you. Yeah, that's right. You got to understand something. According to the Founding Fathers, the militia is everybody who is able to defend the country. And that if you're not in the regular armed forces, and if there's a few other exceptions, a few public officials or whatnot, you are in the militia. The problem that you have is you don't know it. So here tonight I'm going to explain to you why you're in the militia. Maybe you'll know it then. So the militia is not a bad thing. It's a good thing. Get it through your head. All right? Okay. Now, I was talking about demonizing the militia and how the mainstream media, the press, Hollywood or whatever just loves to demonize the militia. Well, I got a classic example of that tonight. I'm going to play 8 short clips from a movie that I rented the other day. I was walking through the Hollywood video and this thing leaped out at me. There's a movie came out in 1999 called Militia. And apparently it didn't succeed too well. It's kind of a B movie, but it had some stars in it. John, you want to go to the other camera? There it is. This is the cover of the movie. Now that's Dean Cain, you know, the guy who played Superman on TV. He's one of the stars. And there you have the glorious ATF there saving all of America from the evil militiamen right there. And come back to me now, John. I also want to read the jacket of this video. It's really great. So you'll know, I'm trying to set the scene for what this movie is about, so when you see these scenes, you'll kind of understand them. Hell is about to break loose when ATF agents Ethan Carter, played by Dean Cain, and Julie Sanders, played by Jennifer Beals, infiltrate a radical militia group led by madman George Montgomery, Stacy Keach. His plan to murder the U.S. president and overthrow the government hinges on the 3 stolen missiles filled with anthrax. Now Carter must work with the militia member William Fain, Frederick Forrest, to stop the missiles. But Fain's motives are growing more and more suspicious by the second. The countdown is on. Okay, so this is this movie Militia. And you know, you got these actors. You got Dean Cain, he played Superman. Jennifer Beals, her big role was 20 years ago in Flashdance, if you remember that movie. And Stacy Keach, he's been around forever. And again, Dean Cain plays the militia sharpshooter cool guy, okay? I'm sorry. He plays the ATF sharpshooter cool guy, okay? Jennifer Beals plays the hot ATF agent who's working with Dean Cain. Frederick Forrest plays the leader of the militia, who's basically just misdirected but a good guy. And Stacy Keach plays the evil leader of the militia who is going to take over the country. And Stacy Keach's role, he's a radio talk show host. So you might say Stacy Keach is the Alex Jones of this particular movie. And I want to play some clips from this movie. Now what you're going to see here, the first thing you're going to see is the head of the ATF strike force justifying the raid against these people. So go ahead and play the first one.
We're going to stop one of the largest illegal arms operations in history before they can sell any more AK-47s to high school kids and before they blow up any more federal buildings.
Okay.
That is our mission.
Stop it right there, John. Okay, back to me. Okay, now, there's the mission. You see, right now we're demonizing militia because, you see, what the militia does, according to the mainstream media in Hollywood, is they sell AK-47s to high school children, and the militia blows up federal buildings. Now, 2 comments. The biggest instance of AK-47 selling to anybody in this country occurred in California when the Chinese government was caught smuggling them in to California for distribution to gang members. I don't think the Chinese government qualifies as a domestic terrorist militia. Also, in terms of reality, blowing up more federal buildings, please look into that. I've done a show on it. There's more documentation about what happened at Oklahoma City than you could possibly ever absorb. And the fact of the matter is, that truck bomb did not take down that building. No way. It was a part of it. What's his name? McVeigh was a patsy. He was involved. He's guilty. But he did not act alone. He had a lot of help, inside help. The documentation is extensive. Please look into it. Best place to find extensive documentation on that is the John Birch Society website, www.jbs.org. You wouldn't believe it. But at any rate, what they're doing is they're playing the game of pointing the finger of blame back where it doesn't belong. So go ahead, let's play the second sequence.
Main objective is to take into cut. We will not fire first. I don't want the stain of Waco on this mission.
All right, there. He doesn't want the stain of Waco on this mission. Oh, that's right. He doesn't want, okay, now let's get this straight. That's very important for you to realize that he just said that because, you know, Waco kind of, you know, was a stain on the ATF's good name, and he doesn't want that to happen again. Now, the next thing you're going to see is the attack on the compound. Now, what I want you to, I'm going to tell you what's going to happen before we play it because you got to watch it real carefully. What happens is all the glorious ATF agents in the black helicopters are going to attack these people's home. Each side has been told not to fire first, but a little boy who is the son of the head militia commander on the ground accidentally, while he's running, drops his rifle, and you will see it go off sideways. And for some strange quirk of nature, that bullet streams up to the sky and hits the helicopter of the ATF commander. He thinks he's being fired on by the crazed right-wing wacko militia, so he orders his men to open up on them. Go ahead, John, play it.
Hey, Bob.
Yeah.
Before we do that, you want to explain to some maybe new viewers what stain of Waco they're talking about and talk about the anniversary coming up?
Sure. That's going to take a while. Okay, here we go. Waco, April the 19th, 1993. That was the day, the last day of the Waco siege, which started on February the 28th, 1993. The ATF, on February the 28th, staged a raid at the Branch Davidian compound east of Waco. Branch Davidians were a offshoot of the Seventh-day Adventist Church. They were accusing their leader, David Koresh, of illegal gun activity. They went in there on February the 28th with a raid, which, for all logical intents and purposes, didn't make any sense. The ATF people were told that all these crazy religious freaks were armed with AK-47s. But despite that, they drove right up to the front door, which is about 20 feet away from the building, and jumped out of cattle trailers, and there was a big fight. Nobody really knows who fired the first shot because the videotape that the ATF had magically disappeared, all 3 cameras. Strange. At any rate, you know what happened. There was a big siege, lasted many, many days. Several people were killed the first day. And then on April the 19th, well, they were all murdered. The ATF was no longer the ATF, now it's the FBI, and now it's Delta Force, American soldiers, tanks, destroying everything in sight. They machine gunned the Branch Davidians out the back of the compound where there were no cameras. except for that camera that the FBI had flying around in a plane up above the complex, which was later released. FLIR video, infrared video, very clearly showing men getting out of a tank and machine gunning people. I mean, I don't want to get too deep into that, but basically,
Anyway, American women
you saw
and children.
American babies, children, women were massacred by
on their own property.
on their own property by components of the United States government under Bill Clinton and, of course, Janet Reno. This was a horrible, disgusting thing. I've done many shows on it, hours and hours, as a matter of fact, full of documentation. Those people were murdered, and there is no doubt about it. I even did a show last year on the cover-up that John Danforth did about Waco just last year. Covered up the whole thing. I proved he covered it up with his own words, lying about autopsy reports, twisting language. Waco was a horrible thing, an absolutely horrible thing, which was the government run amok and out of control. Just to prove that they could do it, I guess. You know, you want to, I've said that if you want to demonize religion, which is one of the goals of our current government, to demonize Christians and Jews and anybody else who has a, conventional religious belief in a supreme being. If you want to demonize Christians, well, you also need to get a twofer. You demonize Christians with guns. Branch Davidians had guns. Oh, in Texas they had guns. Oh, that's terrible. And so they got a twofer. They got to demonize Christians with guns. And as a result, over 80 people were killed. Many of them babies, women and children. Totally unnecessary.
And that's the stain of which they speak.
And that is the stain of Waco that our little actor friend there was trying to avoid in our little movie here. Now, what you're about to see now, again, you will see a little boy running with a rifle. The gun goes off sideways and magically comes up and hits the helicopter of the ATF commander, and they open up on these people on their own property. But this is good, you understand. This is good, according to the Hollywood. Go ahead and play it, John.
Now that's...
Keep on going.
Hey, Jim. Taking ground fire! Fire at will. I repeat, fire at will.
Daddy!
Okay, stop. Stop it right there. All right. Now, I'm not going to show you all the exciting scenes where they waste everybody, but that's basically they waste a bunch of people and they shoot everybody and they shoot rockets at things, and it's just glorious. Great TV, showing them attacking the evil militia. The next scene you're going to see is after it's all over. Now, this is very important. In this movie, they've captured the head militia dude. All the other militia dudes have surrendered. It's over, all right? And they want to avoid the stain of Waco, remember? So go ahead and play the next sequence.
Torch all of it.
Roger that.
Go ahead and play it a little bit.
Rachel! Jimmy! Jimmy!
Must have blown their own ammo.
You killed my boy! You got my boy!
All right, right there. Okay. Now, theoretically, the wife and child were hiding in there and were killed, theoretically. This is good, according to Hollywood. See, they didn't learn anything from Waco. Gee, after everything was over, they got a crime scene. They're supposed to gather evidence against the evil militia, and the ATF commander says waste the whole place. You see, and that's good, you see. Isn't that wonderful? Okay, now, the next sequence you're going to see is where the so-called Alex Jones of this group comes in, all right? The patriot, the evil patriot leader, this George Armstrong Montgomery, who has a radio talk show, and I want you to listen to his little diatribe. Look at the way he's filmed. What you're going to see, is real close-up of his face, a dark, sinister man, and what he's doing is he's saying all the words that we in the constitutional movement or the patriot movement or whatever you want to call us say all the time. What he's doing is he's demonizing our words. We talk about the United Nations, we talk about Ruby Ridge, we talk about Waco, we talk about Oklahoma City, we talk about the New World Order and the incrementalist approach to depriving us of our rights. Now, we document this extensively, but here they're boiling it all down into this evil person and basically trying to trash everything we say. So go ahead and play that.
Pentagon. And I'm getting off the track here, fellow patriots. What I meant to say is, I think we only need to look in one direction to find the culprit here, and that is directly at Washington, D.C., and their minions in the UN. I mean, think about it, folks. Who else would kill their own to justify an all-out war on our personal freedoms? They did it at Ruby Ridge. They did it at Waco. They did it at Oklahoma City. And then they try to cover up their jackboot tactics by pointing the finger directly at those of us who love freedom and who seek only to preserve the legacy bequeathed to us by our forefathers. No, fellow patriots, a new world order is coming. A dictatorship like none the world has ever seen. Now, some of you people, you go to sleep at night and you think, oh, no, it can't happen here. Well, let me tell you something, patriots. It can. Now, it won't happen all at once. No. They're too clever for that. No, like a thief in the night, they'll come. And Americans are going to wake up one morning, they're going to look around, and they're going to cry, well, what happened? Why didn't somebody warn us? Well, this is your warning, fellow patriots. This is your wake-up call.
Okay, John, stop it right there. You see how sinister that guy is? The black around him, the close-up of his face. I mean, the whole thing is like, ooh, now here is an evil militia dude right here, okay? This is the evil head of this whole thing now, nationwide, a radio talk show host. Okay, now, the next sequence, you talk about ridiculous. I mean, this is Hollywood for you. The way these evil militia people are going to do their thing is they're going to steal anthrax and use it on the American people. So we want to see this next little sequence here.
This is George Armstrong. My mama would have called.
And he's teamed up with Sanders here on this assignment. Now, our plan is to infiltrate him into the Brotherhood of Liberty and see what kind of intelligence he can gather as to what militia group is responsible for the theft of the anthrax.
Excuse me, sir. Anthrax?
Sanders, why don't you bring him up to speed?
Okay, right there. Stop it right there, John. Okay, you see, now that's the big plane. See, the militia now is responsible for stealing anthrax. Now, let's talk about reality here. Who's injecting troops of the United States government with unsafe, untested, un-FDA-approved anthrax vaccine? Who passed an executive order a few years ago mandating injecting our troops with anthrax vaccine, whether or not they like it or not? What company produces anthrax vaccine and has all kinds of trouble because they just can't seem to get it right? See, the reality versus this fiction, well, it's kind of twisted, isn't it? And by the way, I got to say this. Last year, the news media has been dutifully reporting over and over and over again, and you've seen it. It's not a question of if a major city gets attacked by terrorism with botulism and anthrax, but when. Now, don't believe me? Ted Koppel did a 5-part series last year about the anthraxing of a major U.S. city by a terrorist group. 5-part series with a death clock, you know, a little death counter behind him all the time. I mean, who's talking about this? You see, they're the ones that are talking about it, not us. So what's going to happen next? There's going to be a terrorism summit at this in this movie where the president comes together with a bunch of people to discuss terrorism. And I want you to see our friend here, the evil radio talk show host, discussing that. So play it, John.
Began in earnest today with the Praetorian Guard, oops, I meant the Secret Service, sending an advance team to Los Angeles. Folks, on July 4th, our beloved president and his NATO lackeys will announce the formation of a new multinational anti-terrorism force. Now, for those of you who didn't catch that, I'll say it again. Foreign troops, folks, right here on American soil. Now, I got news for you. According to the U.S. Constitution, it is illegal to have foreign armies within the borders of the United States of America. But when has legality ever bothered them, folks? I mean, to them, I guess the Constitution is just a guide. I mean, who has to pay attention to insignificant little details like the Second Amendment or the Fourth? And after all, who needs warrants? I mean, they take so much time and effort. Why not just let the police go out and arrest anybody they want to? But let's get back to the case at hand, folks. The United Nations is using foreign troops to take over our nation and impose their new world order, bought and paid for by the U.S. Congress. So, folks, I strongly suggest you take a good, long look at your congressman. Remember his face, because one day you may have to blow it all.
Okay, right there, John. Okay, so he says a few things that we say. We talk about the United Nations, the New World Order. And then he says some lies about the Constitution. Nowhere in the Constitution does it say that it's unconstitutional to have foreign troops on U.S. soil. The subject never even came up. So he's telling a lie there, which makes everything else he says suspect. And then he says something else which is terrible. He says, hey, Patriots, one of these days you may have to assassinate your congressman. Now, that's crazy. You know, our whole thing is to convince our congressmen to behave in a constitutional manner, to follow the Constitution. And, you know, that's the whole crux of the problem, is that they're not doing it. You know, we want to elect people that will do that. Here, this guy is advocating murdering congressmen. Of course, that's the Hollywood version of the evil militia. Now, the next sequence, which is the last sequence in this little movie I want to play, is the diabolical plan of the radio talk show host. He's explaining his diabolical plan to the ATF agent as it's transpiring. And get this, what they're trying to do, I mean, you're talking about stupid Hollywood. They have commandeered 3 ancient 30-year-old Nike missiles from an old abandoned Nike missile site, and they're going to shoot the anthrax into Los Angeles, okay? Okay, whatever. Go ahead and play the last sequence, John.
This is George Armstrong Montgomery. We'll be right back after this. Tomorrow morning, the President of the United States joins NATO and other world leaders in Los Angeles. Though I will not be attending the event myself, as a member of the media, I will send a representative.
Anthrax warheads.
Within 48 hours, everybody attending that event will be dead. Half the population of Los Angeles will follow them to hell before wind conditions render the air safe again.
Who'll get the blame for that, George?
Well, who cares? Foreign nationals, the Red Chinese. It's not about blame. It's about what our federal government will do after the attack.
Well, the feds will force a crackdown. You can bet on that.
That's right. On all personal freedoms. We are going to see guns outlawed. We'll see curfew. We'll see martial law. UN troops will be brought in to battle armed resistance.
Every conspiracy freak's dream come true.
My dream, Agent Carter. The seeds of a new American Revolution have been sown. Americans are going to rise up by the millions. And I'm going to be the man to lead them.
So where do I fit into your paranoid little fantasy?
Okay, right there. All right. Now, would you agree, listeners, viewers, that I have given a great example of the way the mainstream Hollywood, the press, the media portrays the militia? All right? That's what you're fed a constant diet of, right? Now, this movie really stunk, okay? It was, apparently it never made it into the, you know, the big screen, because apparently it was so stupid that nobody would watch it. But anyway, I wanted to show you that because now we're going to go from fantasy into reality. In a minute, we're going to play in our other tape, just to remind you, John, we're going to play a speech that was given by someone about a year ago. Matter of fact, it was on April the 19th, 2000. It was up in Waco. Many of you know that the nationally syndicated radio talk show host, Alex Jones, spearheaded a drive to rebuild the church at Waco, the church building itself, not the whole place. And through a monumental effort of volunteers, he actually did it. Well, April the 19th, which was just about a year ago, they had the dedication of the church. I was up there in my capacity as host of the Simple Truth, and because I felt I needed to be there. I shot a lot of video, and this particular video is of the commander of the Michigan Militia, a fellow by the name of Ron Gaydosh, speaking before everyone inside the little church building. It was a very interesting experience for me. Here I was up there seeing all these guys dressed in camouflage. There was about 6 or 7 of them, I think, from Michigan. The Michigan Militia, the most famous militia group in the country. I interviewed, I talked to Gaydosh briefly. I interviewed one of his captains. I showed that interview on the show a year ago. And after the dedication was over, we all went to the Ryan's Family Steakhouse in Waco to have kind of a dinner. It was actually too early for dinner and too late for lunch, but it was a strange thing. There I was driving along in my pickup truck down country roads east of Waco, following this big blue sedan with Michigan license plates on it, full of Michigan militia members. It was kind of bizarre, actually. And they were all dressed in their fatigues. And so we went into the Ryan's Family Steakhouse, and we all had lunch or dinner, or whatever you want to call it. Talked to them, watched them say grace before they ate. That was interesting. You don't see that very often anymore. And I found out that their knuckles do not drag on the ground. I was watching. I wanted to see if their knuckles would drag on the ground while they walked, but they didn't. I swear, I was there. So back then I conceived of the idea of eventually doing a show about the militia, and that's what I'm doing right now. I want to play this speech because, again, this is the commander of the Michigan Militia, and he is talking before a packed house in that little chapel in Waco on April the 19th, 2000. John, want to go ahead and play it?
I just wanted to point out, the lady standing up there you see is one of the Branch Davidian members.
Catherine Madison.
Catherine Madison, who's currently still a member and survived the whole thing.
Yes, she was portrayed in a movie that they brought out about Waco while the siege was still going on. Hollywood rushed to the benefit of all of us fools that watch TV to show a movie about Waco while it was still in progress, and they were showing her as being a crazy grandmother machine gunner in that movie, which was, of course, patent nonsense.
Right.
But that's an award is being presented, or a plaque is being presented by the Michigan Militia to the Branch Davidians, which
Now,
is what you're about to see.
Also, I want to put it in context, in that, remember, we all watched the siege of Waco on TV, and the Michigan Militia, it was nationwide. They also sort of watched on TV. And if you listen carefully, the audio is not great. And it frankly, it jerked tears out of my body to hear this man apologize for not having taken any action. And then with as much emotion, but on the other side, he pledges that that'll never happen again. Never again on the soil of this country. So anyway, here it goes.
Small presentations I want to make, a message from the Michigan Militia Corps Wolverines that I want to give to everybody out here. I guess I'll start out with these. I got a couple of Michigan Militia Wolverine Corps badges that we want to give to Mike Hanson and Alec Jones, make them honorary Michigan Militia members. I was elected the state commander of the Michigan Militia Corps Wolverines, and my first official act came about 2 minutes after the election, announced who we wanted. And what I did was ask them what message they wanted me to bring out here to the people from Waco, around the country. They said that overwhelmingly they would never allow another Waco to take place anywhere in the United States without quick retaliation from us.
That's right!
The second thing they wanted me to do and ask is to beg for the Davidians for their forgiveness for our inaction 7 years ago. I'm happy that they allowed us to be part of this church dedication, part of this rebuilding of this church. But hindsight's always 20/20, and I just couldn't believe when this happened. I knew that there was a corrupt government here. I just didn't believe how corrupt it was, and what happened, I just didn't know what to do. We do know what to do now, and we will do whatever happens again.
Amen. Right.
My name is John Whiting. I'm commander of the 20th Brigade, which is the brigade that raised most of that money. There is some other people on this flag, some names of people and places that helped out with us.
All these serious individuals.
Okay, right there. All right. Again, that was Ron Gaydosh, the commander of the Michigan Militia. The real Michigan Militia. Oh, my goodness, they really exist. You know, some of the stuff he said sounded kind of scary, didn't it? You know, that they were not going to sit idly by while the United States government massacres more people, kills more babies, burns more children, burns more mothers, shoots more people. I mean, that sounds like a really radical, horrible thing to say, but guess what? It happened. It really happened. And all you got to do to believe it, go rent the Academy Award nominated documentary, Waco, The Rules of Engagement. See it for yourself with the government's own video, machine gunning those people from the back of the complex. You can see it with your own eyes.
Bob, do you have time to share, was it you who told me about an interview with one of the captains of the Michigan Militia where they intervened on behalf of a person?
You want me to tell that story?
Would you tell me that story?
I was interviewing one of the captains in the Michigan Militia that day. His name was Clint Dare. And he explained a situation that happened up in Michigan, which I thought was interesting. I'll kind of summarize it. A friend of his who lived out in the country had built him a new house on his own property, and he was in the process of burning down the remainder of his old house. Well, somebody called the fire department out there, and he told them to go away, and there was a confrontation. It was his property, it was his house. He just told them to go away. Well, they wouldn't go away, and they exchanged words, and they got heated. And the next thing you know, his entire property is surrounded by police and SWAT and fire department and everybody else. Well, this fellow calls Captain Clint Dare of the Michigan Militia, and he said, listen, I'm surrounded by these people. I'm not giving up. This is my property. They won't go away. And, of course, these SWAT guys are out there with guns and everything like that. And so Dare, as a citizen, calls up the cops and says, hey, listen, I understand you've got a friend of mine out there surrounded by SWAT people. Why don't y'all all just back off and go away? Nothing, you don't want anybody to get killed. Well, of course, they denied it, that there was anything going on, but he persisted, and basically they wouldn't leave. And so this situation was escalating, and it looked like they might actually shoot this guy in his own house, on his own property, you know, burning down his own old house because he felt like it, because he had moved into another house. Well, they wouldn't leave. The situation kept escalating. So Citizen Dare called him back, and this time he said something to this effect. I'm trying to paraphrase him. He said, I am no longer calling you as Citizen Dare. I am now calling you as Captain Dare of the Michigan Militia Wolverines. I am hereby ordering you to stand down. I have called up the militia, and we are en route, and you will leave, basically is what he told them. He called back his friend, who was, again, surrounded by these people, and his friend said they all bugged out. They all just took off. They left their equipment, they left their stuff, all these SWAT teams and whatnot, and the fire department, they all just boogied. And I interviewed Captain Dare up in Waco last year, and I asked him, well, now, how many guys did you have en route there, Captain Dare? And he said he had 2,400 men en route. And now, that's an interesting story. I suppose you could kick that around. But in this particular case, a man's life was saved when, you know, the SWAT team was fixing to go ballistic. And the Michigan militia was instrumental in diffusing the situation. Now, that's the story. Again, you can debate that, I guess, as to whether or not it's a good idea or not. But when you've seen what happened at Waco, and when you've seen it with your own eyes through videotape, and when you've seen it through forensic evidence and autopsies,
and you've talked to the survivors,
and you've talked to the survivors,
you've walked the grounds,
and you've walked the grounds like I have and like John has, and you've done extensive research on it, and you've seen the lies, the absolute manufactured evidence and lies that the federal government has spewed out since then, just blatant lies, provable lies. It's not such a far-fetched thing, you know. So what I'm about to do now is I am going to explain what the militia is, and I'm going to use the Michigan Militia's own document. This is called In Defense of Liberty 2. John, you want to go to the other camera and I'll show people what I'm reading from? Right there. This is from the Michigan Militia. In Defense of Liberty 2. This is on their website. And I'm not sure what the website is. Just type in Michigan Militia. You'll find it, believe me. And go back to me now. And I want to explain what the Michigan Militia says the militia is. Because, again, they are the most recognized of all the militias. And since I've met them, I kind of feel like I've intersected with them. They're real to me. I want to read some of this. So here we go. They ask, this is a bunch of questions people ask them. So number one, what is the militia? The militia is all able-bodied citizens who are capable of bearing arms, the absolute last line of defense against any threat to the state or country, whether that threat is natural or man-made, foreign or domestic. Our motivation is patriotism and a sincere desire to defend the Constitution. Our goal is to encourage all citizens to achieve a high level of preparedness for a wide variety of possible emergencies. We support a constitutionally limited government and defend the American ideals of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. We are open to all citizens regardless of race, sex, religion, or political affiliation. Groups not open to public membership and or which are organized for any other purposes are not militias. The militia, as an organization, has no religious theme, is not racial in nature, nor does it advocate terrorism or violence. Now that is what the militia really is, according to the militia. Question number 3. I'm skipping around here. I'm highlighting because it'd take me forever to read all this. Is militia activity legal? Yes, we all have the inalienable rights of self-defense, to keep and bear arms, freedom of speech, and to peaceably assemble. These cover the majority of militia activities. The Constitution of the United States prohibits government at any level from interfering or infringing on these rights. So you think about that. Okay, militia members have the right of self-defense, all right, to keep and bear arms. So do you, right, because you're part of the militia. They have the right of freedom of speech and to peaceably assemble. So what they're saying is, if we want to keep and bear arms while peaceably assembling and say what we want to say, the Constitution protects that. And they're right. It absolutely does. Question number 4. Is the government going to target me if I join the militia? And the answer is, if you're asking this question, there's obviously something enormously wrong. It places emphasis on the fact that people are fearful of government reprisal for engaging in illegal activities. You will have to ask the government. If you say the militia is legal, why doesn't the media support you? And the basic answer is, you will have to ask the media. And of course, I know, of course, we've documented why the media wants to destroy the Second Amendment, because they're bought and paid for by the elitists in this country. I don't want to go into that. I've documented it a million times, but the media is bought and paid for. They're all Council on Foreign Relations members, and the Council on Foreign Relations is dedicated to destroying the sovereignty of the United States. They say so. You know, best documentation for it is the Council on Foreign Relations. Go to their website. You'll find out. www.cfr.org. Are you racists? That's the other big thing. Racist militia. No. There are, however, individuals or groups that claim to be militias that say they are of a superior race fighting the, quote, great race war to annihilate the mud people, end quote. These individuals or groups are not militias. They are racists. Yeah, that's right. See the way it works? I don't care what color you are. If you're an American citizen and you are capable of defending your home, your state, your country, or helping out in times of an emergency, you are a member of the militia, regardless of your race or creed. It's very important to know that. Another question. Are you militant? And the answer is no. However, there are individuals or groups who claim to be militias that are determined to be engaged in combat and are aggressively active. These individuals or groups are not militias. They are militants. The point here he's making is, just because you call yourself a militiaman doesn't mean you are. If you have some weird white supremacy agenda, you're not in a constitutional militia. You're not. You may say you are, but you're not. If you have some bizarre agenda to murder American citizens or whatever, you're not in a constitutional militia. The militia is to protect and defend the Constitution. If you don't believe that everyone has a right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, then you cannot be, by definition, in a constitutional militia. You can say it, and the media can say, oh, look, there's a militiaman, but it doesn't make it so. Isn't the militia the National Guard? No, the citizen militia is the unorganized militia. The National Guard is the organized militia. Federal law, 10 U.S.C. section 311A, B1-2, clearly distinguishes between the organized and unorganized militia. It reads in part, "The classes of militia are 1. The organized militia, which consists of the National Guard and the Naval Militia, and 2. The unorganized militia, which consists of the members of the militia who are not members of the National Guard or Naval Militia." See, that's U.S. law. Yeah, by U.S. law, you are in the militia. Got it? You just don't know it. I'm here to tell you, you're part of it. Now a note regarding the National Guard. The National Defense Act of June 3, 1916 provides in part, quote, that the Army of the United States shall consist of the regular Army, the Volunteer Army, the Officer Reserve Corps, the Enlisted Reserve Corps, the National Guard while in service of the United States, and other such land forces as are now or may hereafter be authorized by law, end quote. We understand from this excerpt that your state's National Guard was federalized back in 1916. That's right. You know National Guardsmen can be ordered to Bosnia. You know it. State National Guardsmen can be ordered around, right, by the federal government. That means they were federalized. That means the organized militia is under the control of the federal government. The Founding Fathers provided for the citizen militia specifically to safeguard against the corrupt, centralized government. Another question, why do we need militias or even armed citizens? Answer, as Americans, it is everyone's responsibility to uphold and defend the Constitution. This is a requirement of a free people. As to the need for armed citizens, you are responsible for defending the life of you and yours. As we've talked about on this show, as you can document all day long for yourself, the police have no obligation to protect you. None. I mean, can you imagine how many times the police have been sued by people for not showing up in time? The fact of the matter is, it's physically impossible for them to show up on time. Therefore, they have no obligation to protect you at all. And that is, court case after court case has ruled that. So guess what? You're under attack, some weirdo's breaking into your house or whatever, you're the person. You are the person who is responsible for saving you. You can't crawl under a desk and hide and hope the slime bag doesn't look under the coffee table or whatever, wherever you're hiding. I mean, it's you. Another question, are you terrorists? Well, according to that movie, you're sure terrorists, but no, the militia does not advocate terrorism or violence. Only lunatics, including those in the government, destroy buildings full of men, women, and children. The militia is a dedicated group of citizen patriots who volunteer their time and energy to further the cause of freedom. What is your contribution to society? The ultimate and final guarantor of freedom. That's what the militia is. It establishes that as a free people we are ready, willing, and able to defend our lives and our country. We strongly encourage everyone to vote and become involved in the safeguarding of rights within their local communities. We believe that the educated, responsible citizen is the best possible guarantee of our freedoms. Now, have y'all heard anything really radical and crazy yet about the Michigan militia? I haven't. Why don't you hold political rallies or try to elect your own candidates? We intentionally separate our group militia activities from our individual political beliefs because politics is controversial in nature and would only serve to damage the cohesive quality of our unit. Are there women in the militia? Yes. Why do you train like the military? We take the words well-regulated seriously. Well-regulated means trained. It doesn't mean run by the federal government. So that's a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Excuse me, that's the Second Amendment to the Constitution. You got to read that. Why can't you just have your guns, believe what you want, and not be so radical? The militia is not radical. We are very concerned, however, that our elected public servants in government are not following the law as provided by the Constitution. These and other violations of the Bill of Rights are more numerous every day. The constitutionally limited republic of our forefathers has been stolen and replaced with a representative democracy. Democracy is tyranny by majority, and that is a bad thing. Why do you need to have assault weapons? We do not. The militia uses civilian variations of these weapons, which are the highest technology available to us and are semi-automatic. Our big, black, scary-looking guns are not big nor scary, they are just black. They are simple to operate, field efficient, easy to clean, accurate, and commonly available, and are almost universally chambered in a .223 or 7.62 caliber, which is smaller and less powerful than a .30-30 or .30-06 caliber, which are common hunting rounds. Why do you wear camouflage? By wearing our uniforms, we identify ourselves as members of a positive, patriotic, and responsible organization. In addition, the Geneva Convention and other laws require that all militias must have uniforms with insignia to designate them as such. So they're just following the rules. Are you cultists or religious extremists? No to both. We cherish free thought, patriotic ideals, and the inalienable right of freedom of and from religion. Our members have a variety of religious and philosophical beliefs. We do not side ourselves with any one particular religion. On the contrary, we welcome everyone's beliefs as it tends to stimulate intellectual conversation. Are you going to revolt or riot? No to both. We in the militia would rather see a revolt at the ballot box than at the bullet box. Are you survivalists? Now this is a really good question here, because people accuse the militia people of being weirdos that run off into the woods and hide and bunker up and you know, go up on a mountain and just stay there, you know, and kind of antisocial types. This is very important. This is a very, very good question. Are you survivalists? No, the militia is an open, all-inclusive type of organization, and we are not prone to the typical isolationist attitude of most survivalists. In the event of an emergency or crisis, the militia will stay to assist or defend our neighbors, communities, and state, whereas a survivalist will run to the hills and hide. It's a very important distinction. The militia is supposed to help the community, not run off and bunker down and hide. But you wouldn't believe that if you watch these Hollywood movies. And talks about the structure of the militia and a few other things. Let me see if there's anything more interesting in here. I like this one. What would you do if tomorrow the president, governor, sheriff, ATF, FBI, or Janet Reno decides to outlaw the citizen militia? Of course, this was written when President Clinton was president. And the answer is, they can't. In order to outlaw the citizen militia, they would have to do away with the inalienable rights of freedom of speech, to keep and bear arms, and to peaceably assemble, among others. In addition, none of those entities has the power to make laws. Only Congress and state legislatures can pass laws, and they don't have the authority to deny any inalienable rights. Makes perfectly clear sense, doesn't it? They cannot outlaw inalienable rights. And let's see, is the militia anti-government? If not, why are you so negative about the government? No, the militia is not anti-government. What? The militia is not anti-government? Okay. We fully support the restoration of the constitutionally limited government that was intended for this nation. Besides, we the people are the government. Where we do have problems is with the ongoing violations of our inalienable rights, as should you. The reason we are portrayed as negative is that it suits the purpose of tainting the legitimacy of our concerns. This is intentional and politically motivated. No one knows the misleading, deceitful capacity of the media like the Michigan militia. Does the militia want retribution for Waco and the Randy Weaver incidents? Retribution is not the word for it. We want something much more severe. Justice. We want Bill Clinton, Janet Reno, and every federal agent involved to face the thing they fear the most, a trial by jury. That's it. Simple, fair, and straightforward. All we ask is for just a tiny bit of justice. And then, why should I get involved? Now, y'all listen to this. It is a responsibility and duty of every American citizen to get involved. Your duly elected local, state, and federal representatives will day after day, year after year, continue to pass unconstitutional laws, raise your taxes beyond the point of serfdom, claim authority over your children, take your property, jail you for pretended offenses, send our military to fight foreign wars, protect you from yourself, etc., unless you get involved. We need your involvement to let those in government know that they work for us, not the other way around. The more people that get involved, the more America will resemble what the Founding Fathers had in mind when they spoke of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And then the question, what can I do? Read the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence. Read the Constitution, learn the history, read the Federalist Papers, develop an understanding of how the country was intended to be, and then look at what has become of freedom in this country. To uphold and defend the Constitution of the United States, you have to understand it. And then there's a quote here. I hope I'm still alive, John, and Mike sounds kind of funny right now. This is a quote, a very important quote. I love this quote. It's from a crazy radical back in 1776 by the name of Samuel Adams. And I would like to read it and address it to anyone listening who doesn't support the Second Amendment, doesn't support the Constitution, doesn't support the militia. If you love wealth better than liberty, the tranquility of servitude better than the animating contest of freedom, go home from us in peace. We ask not your counsel or arms. Crouch down and lick the hands which feed you. May your chains set lightly upon you, and may posterity forget that you were ever our countrymen. Samuel Adams, Debates, 1776. All right, so that is a abbreviated summary of what the Michigan militia describes as what the militia is, and they are absolutely right. There's nothing in that document that I disagree with, and if you want to argue about it, fine, you know, let's argue about it, but the militia, the constitutional militia, is you. If you're not in the military, you are in the militia. You just don't know it because your education system and your mainstream media and your schools and everything else didn't tell you. They forgot, conveniently, because they want you to be disarmed. Now, I have another little document here I'd like to cover. This is from another group, the Constitution Society, and you can find their website. You can get lost in that website. It's www.constitutionsociety.org. That thing, you'll never get out of that website. It's documentation for the beliefs of certain pro-militia type organizations. And I would like to read some of the grievances. This is not the Michigan Militia here. This is the Constitution Society. I want to make clear that this is the Constitution Society. Some of the grievances they have against the people that have corrupted our government. Statement of grievances and demands for redress. We, the people of the United States, exercising our natural and constitutional rights to assemble peaceably and to keep and bear arms, and met as the militia assembled, and exercising our constitutional right to petition for grievances, do hereby present this statement of grievances and demands for redress thereof. And one of their first grievances, federal officials have made war on the people. They have adopted and enforced statutes and regulations to deprive the people of their arms and impair the bearing thereof in defense of themselves and state. That's irrefutable. They have established a criminal secret government involving a conspiracy of key officials in all branches and levels of government and involving government contractors, financial institutions, business organizations, the media, educational, religious, and charitable organizations. Absolutely right. You know, I've done many shows on the Council on Foreign Relations as a classic example of this. They have adopted legislation and orders which illegally seek to suspend the Constitution under ill-defined emergencies and made preparations to overthrow the Constitution under circumstances which are either not true emergencies or which are contrived by a conspiracy of such officials. And we have talked about that on the show. They can't do it constitutionally, but they have plans to do it anyway. And it's their own plans. I mean, you can read them for yourself. All these war powers and emergency acts and things, and dividing the country up into regions, and the FEMA coming along and making you be a slave, and legally saying, well, you can work for no wages if they say so, and seizing all your trucks and your cars and your trains and your boats and your means of production and all that stuff. It's nonsense, but they got plans to do it. If Henry B. Gonzalez was still alive, he admitted it. He was a congressman from Texas, a Democrat, liberal Democrat. He admitted it. Yeah. He's on tape saying so. Yeah, we got plans to do that. Suspend the Constitution. Yes, we sure do. But, you know, we're crazy to bring it up. And again, I'm excerpting here. They have invented and applied the legal ruse of making inanimate objects parties to legal proceedings to seize and forfeit them in violation of the constitutional principle that only natural persons or aggregates thereof may be parties to due process. Now, what they're talking about there is that asset forfeiture seizure thing. You know, they just grab your stuff. You know, let's say you just like to carry a lot of cash around and they find you got $10,000 on you. They just take it. They just take it. Well, that's drug money. It's got to be drug money. That's our money now. I mean, they just steal your stuff. They call that part of the crime. Hey, Alex, how you doing? Come on in. I have the guy, the star of the movie here is here. Alex Jones. How you been, buddy?
Good to see you, brother.
Okay, tell them about the rally. Get in here.
All right.
Alex Jones, tell them about the rally again, Alex.
Well, I didn't mean to jump in here right at the end of the show. I just Bob waved me on in. No, seriously, folks. They were in the Statesman to the 25th of March, calling for a complete ban on handguns, bragging, we've got your children, we're not going to stop, on and 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 on. The 22nd of April, that's this Sunday, high noon, we want to see everybody out there. Bob Dacy's going to be there. A lot of great folks, Second Amendment Sisters, former State Senator Jerry Patterson, students for the Second Amendment, and many others. And they're not going to stop until we stand up against them and say no to all the things they're doing. It's about slavery. I mean, look at China. Everybody's completely disarmed. Look at this country. Look at the developments we're witnessing. It's a nightmare, Bob.
Yeah, I definitely say it is. Alex, if you want to pick up that microphone behind you, we got another one hiding back there somewhere. That's Mike 4. You want to bring it up, John?
I just jumped in here. I didn't even know I was going to come on there.
Hey, you didn't see the beginning of the show, did you, where someone who's like you was portrayed in this movie called Militia? Stacy Keach plays Alex Jones, the evil commander of the Rebel Alliance who's out to overthrow the country.
Well, if you're for the Second Amendment, if you're for national sovereignty and private property, you're a right-wing evil terrorist.
That's right.
Who just absolutely must be stopped.
Now tell me, Alex, you got to tell me. Get this. Oh, John's going to fix the camera so we can be seen. We don't have anybody here but John running the camera here. So hang on, we're going to get Alex in the picture. You don't want to look at me anyway. You want to look at Alex because he's the evil radio talk show host.
Yeah, I've heard about that.
This is great. The first part of the show was about this.
Well, no, they've put out FBI reports saying the new right-wing evil demons wear suits and have TV shows and radio shows, and they have a very convincing argument. But watch them because oh, man, that's,
I know, he's a little close there. Hey, you need to shave there, Alex.
That's right, I do. I've been working so hard, man, because they need to stop us. People, until you get involved in the grassroots, the parasites know they can control the society.
Get us a two-shot, John.
If they can dumb you down. If they can pull all this garbage. But, and we're just out here at Access fighting for our country as they engage in all this. And meanwhile, while they want our guns, they're arming to the teeth.
Oh, definitely.
And militarizing the police.
There you go. That'll work.
That's good. And everything else you can imagine. But again, it's this Sunday, April 22nd, high noon, Texas State Capitol. Want to see everybody out there. Call all the media for us. We've been spending time doing it. Say, hey, the Million Moms had a 200 bureaucrat march here in Austin a few years ago. They got
your friend Nina was out there, wasn't she?
They got endless coverage. We had a Second Amendment rally the year before with 1,800 people. Didn't even hardly get on the news. So we don't want this bias.
Now wait a minute. Wait a minute.
You got on the news.
Just a minute. I got on the news. Now I got to explain this to y'all. I understand.
To show media bias. Go ahead.
I had a sign there, a poster from Jews for the Preservation of Firearms Ownership.
A Jewish organization.
And I'm not even a member of the organization. I'm not even Jewish, but their sign is so cool that I had to have it. And the sign was a picture of Adolf Hitler in his Sieg Heil stance, and below Adolf Hitler were these words: all those in favor of gun control,
raise your right hand.
Right hand. Now that was the sign I was carrying. It was a Jewish organization.
With a big Jewish star on it.
Yeah, here we go. Now, that's what I was carrying. Now, I had that sign in my hands. Now, what showed up on the news media, you know, watching the coverage that night, what I saw was the top half of the sign.
That's all they showed, one local station.
Adolf Hitler on a sign at the pro-gun rally, leading all the idiots that view the mainstream media to think that a bunch of Nazis were in the crowd supporting the Second Amendment. Now, that is a fact, and that is what they do.
Well, they had another news report. We've got it on tape. I don't remember which one it was locally. At our anti-UN rally, they had people that were against us there, for the UN, burning American flags. And then the local news media, we aired it here many times, this is years ago, they showed the man burning the American flag and being arrested, and then said that they were with us.
Of course.
So if you're against the UN, you burn American flags. It was the UN people out there burning American flags. We're out there with Adam Dollinger, Jews of Preservation of Firearms. He's handing out these signs on posts that's got, you know, that have Hitler going Sieg Heil with a Jewish star right there saying, all in favor of gun control, raise your right hand, because Hitler was for gun control, disarm the people.
It's a great sign.
And I remember on the news, the only little 10-second blurb was they had a Second Amendment rally, and they showed a picture of Adolf Hitler with you standing there with the sign with Hitler right there.
It's just Hitler. You couldn't see me at all. It was just the sign, and that is what these people do. So what we got to do is we got to get out there Sunday from 12 to 3, this Sunday, April the 22nd, South Lawn of the State Capitol, and support the Second Amendment. Support the Second Amendment.
And these are the folks that want our guns, liars. But I'm kind of happy.
Liars? You mean like 3 weeks ago? No. What happened at the State Capitol?
Oh, the payoffs?
The payoffs? Oh,
well,
no.
listen.
That was just traveling expenses.
Bob, I have to tell you, I'm actually proud of them, and I'm glad the Statesman, front page of Metro and State, the 25th of March, on that Sunday, had a front page deal. We're going to get your guns. We're going to totally ban your handguns and your rifles next. Yep. And we've got your children in those public schools, and we're educating them. So don't worry, we're going to get your guns.
That's right. They're definitely educating them. And again, I had a story on the very beginning of this show. I don't know if you saw it, Alex. What they're going to do. They're having fire drills now
for guns.
For guns, so that and the rule is go hide under a table somewhere like a victim and wait to get shot. Now, if some nut with a gun was running around...
Get out of the school.
You'd get the heck out.
No, they now have lockdowns. The guys inside, they lock each classroom in the place. So instead of 10 getting killed or 2 getting killed, we're going to have hundreds. By the way, I've got a United Press International article on Infowars.com in our Second Amendment section. Even before the Brady Bill got enacted, the crime rate was going down. After it got enacted, it slowed down its decline. But twice as many children died last year drowning in swimming pools. Look at the Hamilton Pool thing. Grown-ups couldn't learn how to swim. But it doesn't matter. We should ban Hamilton Pool, ban swimming, because it kills twice as many children every year.
Okay, the question there is a good question. And you got to think about this. Why don't they go after buckets? Why don't they go after steak knives?
Yeah, babies fall in buckets every year.
Why don't they go after automobiles because they produce carbon monoxide and people kill themselves with them? They run over people with them. People drive them into crowds and kill people. Why don't they go after every other single thing in the whole world that could possibly hurt you? Why do they reserve their venom for the firearm?
Because the gun can repulse tyranny.
That's exactly
And the Founding
right.
Fathers clearly stated in the Federalist Papers, it is an individual right. All of those First Amendments are. It's clear. We've read them on the air repeatedly. The point is, you're a patriot. You care about this country. You're supposedly evil. You're going to have to get vocal. You're going to have to get aggressive. And, Bob, I need everybody's help to go to Infowars.com, to download our press release, our flyer, to put it at the gun shops, to go to the gun show and hand them out to people, to put them on cars, and to be down there this Sunday. Everybody, you had better take action and get in the ball game, help organize, help grassroots network coming this Sunday, 12 noon, 3-hour Second Amendment rally, and call the media for us. We've been doing it too, but demand they cover it and cover it fairly, and tell them shame on you for the reporting you've done in the past.
I've had, just to expound on that, I had a call yesterday from somebody, it's probably somebody working on your behalf, calling up all the gun dealers in Austin to remind them of the rally, and I said, do you mean the rally from 12 to 3 on Sunday at the South Lawn of the State Capitol, sponsored by Alex Jones? He said, oh yeah, you know about that, huh? He said, well, some of these gun dealers don't even know. So somebody's been calling all the federally licensed firearms dealers, you know, the people that sell the evil guns to the evil citizens. So that's getting out. So the word's getting out.
Back when we were all armed, we didn't even have a crime to speak of. You'd have some shootout. The West was actually pretty safe. It'd make nationwide headlines.
Well, now the big headline is that the big mantra of the media now is to what's causing these school shootings is bullies. There were no bullies when I was in school in the 60s. And I know, Alex, when you were at Anderson High School, there were no bullies.
No, there weren't.
Obviously not.
I mean, I grew up most of my life in Dallas, and when I was 13, 5 kids didn't beat me up.
Oh.
But see, that's the point. This guy just went in and shot 18 people, killed 2 in a bar in Illinois. Very strong gun control there in Chicago. Those are the most dangerous places in the country. And he had a shaved head. He said, I'm natural-born killers. Hail Satan, I'm the king. And started shooting all of these people. And natural-born killers indiscriminately tells you, go out and kill police, go out and kill women, go out and kill... And I was in the audience at the Arbor movie theater with the Raisler brothers, one of them, of course, former UT football player, really nice, salt-the-earth guys. We got up and left. The crowd of liberal yuppies were laughing as innocent cops and women were being killed because Woody Harrelson was giggling, and that was their little social cue.
Yeah.
Those are the same liberals that cry about the children being, you know, it's sick. They dump it out there. Harris and Kleinbold are now like rock stars because of the way they've hyped it in the schools. It's sick, it's evil. Get your children out of public schools. Arm yourselves, take lessons, get involved politically. Did you know I warned you? 367 passed. 367 passed out of the committee.
Well, it didn't pass the full House.
It's going to the House. It's in calendars right now.
Y'all better watch out. 367, that's Hinojosa's bill. That's the main bill about banning the so-called gun show loophole, which is another word for saying banning the private transaction between individuals.
And first it starts with gun shows. Now in California, it's going everywhere. They just banned ammo in L.A. See that loving headline?
No.
Oh, they don't want our guns.
I can't keep up with it all.
You know, but we'll be real safe. Come on, people. You want the government to only be the people that are armed and the military and the police like Rosie O'Donnell wants?
Yeah, what is the Second Amendment? A well-regulated militia?
And it has nothing to do with hunting, by the way.
Never.
It's about defending our country.
That's right.
But they made the Second Amendment a hunting debate, so if you're against...
I personally recommend to anyone listening to go out and purchase yourself a military-grade rifle and learn how to use it. 223 or 308, those are the right calibers, and that's what you should do because you are a member of the militia, which is what we've been talking about tonight.
Which is in our state and federal constitution.
That's right. You are a member of the militia if you are not active duty military. And
whoever put it in your head that the people shouldn't be ready to respond to crime. Listen, the Supreme Court has ruled 20 times in the last 20 years. Every year they rule. Police, because somebody sues because the cops didn't show up on time, 911 took 10 minutes. They have no, it's not their job.
You are responsible for your own self-defense.
But listen, folks, they've totally basically banned guns in Washington, D.C., highest crime rate in the country.
Go figure.
Kennesaw, Georgia, everybody has to own a gun, city ordinance. Lowest crime rate in the country, suburb of Atlanta.
Switzerland, everybody has a machine gun. Very peaceful little clock-making, candy-making, chocolate-making society. You think that's... because everybody wants to just leave.
In fact, they're kind of loving and liberal, but they haven't been invaded. Lowest crime rate in Europe. England is now #1 in the industrialized world. We're number 13th for crime.
Go figure.
Oh, but I heard socialized health care is great over in England. No, it's not. Talk to the British.
I heard that an armed society is a polite society, Alex. Listen, we are almost out of time here on The Simple Truth. I want to thank Alex for stopping by. Get to that gun rally this Sunday, 12 to 3, State Capitol grounds. Be there.
And also, I'll be on live tomorrow from 4:30 to 7. We have never before seen Oklahoma City footage. Was only shown in Oklahoma that it's a government bombing.
Thank you, and y'all have a good evening. Take care.
Government